ninja, JK, dupla, jinxa, bota, chakra. Em cada linha de faca faz macramé no micado, base, espadas por frases, sintático, repara no que diga, é paradigmático, não tenho paralelo, sou para lá de mágico, sabes como eu rolo, martelo pneumático, técnica secreta do monstro roxo. Estamos a meter-nos no dojo, estamos a manter comes no jogo, só com uma espada nos tojos. Plano picado, não sabes de onde esta ave vem, nenhum radar pode detectar onde está a nave, mãe, tu sabes bem. Somos a clique, somos o clã. É Monster Jinx cabrão, respeito ao vais comer tartan. Na terra do nunca não digo banzai, vivo na espelunca e tenho um bonsai. Ninja que é ninja, ninja, frotas imperiais. E bate mal, logo bate mais, a minha cru não sem espelhos. Na rua, dragão azul, dragão vermelho, sento o silêncio. Verso shinobi, nunca me canso, sou de Nairobi. Ágil como um ninja, rápido como um ninja, letal como um ninja, brutal como um ninja, fatal como um ninja, forte como um ninja, secreto como um ninja, devo mesmo ser um ninja.
Esta é para os meus ninjas, só para os meus ninjas. Onde é que estão os meus ninjas, 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 ninjas. Esta é para os meus ninjas, só para os meus ninjas. Onde é que estão os meus ninjas, 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 ninjas.
And we are live, and a good evening to everyone out there, and welcome to another episode of Top 5 Collaborations with the Westerosi Ninja, that's me, and the Dog Show, or Dog, or whatever he chooses to call himself these days. And as usual, Dog, what is going on with you? What's happening here?
Oh man, I'm just trying to stay cool right now, Milt. It's been kind of a little bit hot days last few days here, but got the AC working today, and things have been cooling down. I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy 14 and enjoying the latest patches with that, and new recipes, crafting new raids, and all that kind of fun stuff. So on my free time, been doing a lot of that too as well. So I just recently saw Spider-Man. The new Spider-Man movie that had come out, and I saw the Quentin Tarantino film as well. So just things off the top of my head that I had been doing. So maybe we'll talk sometime later about the Tarantino movie.
Yeah, maybe we'll need to revise or redo our top 5 Quentin Tarantino movies of all time. I haven't seen that yet, so no spoilers, please, in the chat.
I'm not going to say anything.
And also, anyway, tonight's topic, get ready, guys, is going to be top 5 sports movies of all time, our favorite sports movies. Okay, and again, like last week, this is a redo of a previous stream because we lost our old stream regarding this topic. So we're doing it again, but things are changing as usual. It's an organic process, so we are allowed to, redo our slides and redo the order of the movies that we pick and yada, yada, yada. So how was it for you, Dog? Anything changed from last time?
I think possibly one movie might have flip-flopped around there or two at the bottom there. And but other than that, I think my main 6 were still intact, but I believe my honorable mention kind of jumped into the number 5 spot, if you will. So I think that's kind of what happened. As I'm looking at my old notes, and but yeah, as I kind of dove through again, and this is a list to me that were like, my number 5 could really be my number 1. It was my number 1 for a very long time in my life as well, but I'm still pretty stalwart on my picks.
Yeah, I mean, so anyway, Doug, so I watched one movie 2 weeks ago, and I forgot how good this movie was, and that actually leapfrogged into the top 5 and kicked one other movie out. Okay, you'll be surprised about what this movie is, because I haven't seen it in a while. Okay, like within the last 3 years is a while for me. So,
wow.
But it was, to me, it was a very good movie, and it was very entertaining. Anyway, so I think we're about to start, and thanks a lot to the people out there in the chat for stopping by. We got Linda Art, the Fat Dingo, Alicia Kingston, the Dornish Wench, and that's about it right now. Oh yeah, and Money G in the beginning. So thanks a lot, guys, for stopping by and just hanging out here on a Thursday night. And of course, look who's popping in here. We have the Granite Person, rated TGP. But this is a rated PG-13 stream. So anyway, I think we should go ahead and start here. So Dawg, this is a stream on a Westeros Ninja channel. So what does that usually mean?
Folks, we're going to have some trivial numbers. Some trivia, folks.
Yes, and we do have some numbers for you. So here's our regular by the number slide. And this week I found a list about the top 20 sports movies of all time at the box office. And here's some really interesting numbers here. Guess what? Who's number one? It's The Blind Side. Okay, these are sports dramas here. Okay, so we're not counting comedies or sports comedies. These are just the sports dramas. So Rocky 4 is number 2. Rocky 3 is number 3 with Mr. T and Hulk Hogan. Then we have Seabiscuit, and then number 5 is Rocky, the original Rocky. I mean, this whole list is pretty much baseball movies and boxing, essentially, for the top 20 here. Is that pretty surprising to you, Dawg?
Somewhat. Although, when I think about it, I mean, a
few football movies.
What's nice about boxing films is that, you're kind of, boxing as a sport is a beautiful sport because it's one-on-one. Just like wrestling at times, right? But what's great about that is you're focusing on that one character, Rocky, right? People loved Rocky, and then with like The Blind Side, I'm thinking, they were drawn into that main character, of course, too. But I think it's tougher to do with like films and like football movies and baseball movies where you have more characters and more characters. I think it's a lot tougher to do than just kind of your traditional, kind of focusing on that one character. He has one job. He has to take down the Titan, if you will, the heavyweight champion of the world. And, it was a well-directed and great story at the time. And Rocky just worked. He's just an iconic character.
Yeah, definitely. And Rocky 4, number 2, with, Ivan Drago, right?
Right, and again, this was the time of the blockbusters were really hot at the time too. The soundtracks were amazing. Also, I mean, it was like everybody had to have the Rocky 3 soundtrack and the Rocky 4 one, of course, right?
Yeah.
And I remembered. I just really remember those times going on with Mr. T and Thunder Lips, right?
Yeah.
Clever
Lang. Yeah.
Great time for films during that era.
Yeah, and especially Rocky 4, it was almost like at the height of the Cold War, right? I mean, there were lots of tensions to the USSR back then, or the Soviet Union, and it was one of those made for the times kind of movies, So I mean, it really didn't surprise me that Rocky 4 is actually, was probably the highest grossing Rocky movie of all time, and proofs in the pudding here in terms of the box office numbers. Yeah, so lots of boxing, some football and some baseball, and that's pretty much it in terms of the top 20 here. You got Miracle at number 20, which is is Olympics, right? It's hockey, but it's still an Olympic kind of a story. So how many movies do you have in your top 5 in this top 20 list in the box office, Dawg? Or you don't want to spoil it for everyone here?
Don't want to completely spoil it, but I will tell you that there's. I see some here. I do see at least one here on my list. I actually see one of these photos here that, and I will spoil this. Is that from Seabiscuit?
It sure is. Yeah.
Seabiscuit is an awesome film.
It was definitely.
And I you know what? More I'm thinking about it. I'm okay with it not being on my list tonight, but you know what? More I think about it, I kind of wish it possibly was, because it is a fantastic film to get a chance to see Seabiscuit.
Yeah. I mean, there are two really good horse racing, focused movies where you had Seabiscuit and you had Secretariat that came out maybe 5 or 6 years after Seabiscuit, and they were both, really, really good movies. So definitely recommend horse racing movies in the recent past to go ahead and watch. Anyway, interesting list, and man, Creed 2. I mean, I didn't even see the original Creed, but Creed 2. came out, I guess, in 2018, last fall, looks like, and it's number 6 in this list. I mean, if you look at the Rocky franchise in general, you got Rocky, and then Creed is obviously a offshoot of Rocky, right? I mean, they're dominating the top 10 here, Dog.
Right, and then also that I've been hearing about a Rocky TV series now. I mean, it's just Rocky everywhere, right? They're gonna make a Rocky doll. You can kick it, you can beat it. It's for kids.
Yeah. Is there a Rocky Funko? If BBM was in the chat, maybe he would say something. Somebody get a hold of Phantom DC and ask, is there a Rocky Funko? Because I don't know if there is one or not.
There's got to be a Rocky Funko.
I don't know. Maybe Sly Stallone isn't willing to license that out to Funko. Because he's worried that don't mess up his image, or maybe miss a muscle, or something like that in the doll. So anyway, so let's go ahead and start, why don't we, with our top 5. But today we will be having honorable mentions, 1 each. And Dog, you are the visiting team, so you're going to go ahead and kick us off right now with your first and only honorable mention, and that is.
Yep, and my honorable mention here, folks, is Hoosiers. That was directed by David Anspaugh in 1986, starring Gene Hackman, Dennis Hopper, Barbara Hershey is also in this film. Also, I almost said Deborah Winger. I get them two confused sometimes, but Barbara Hershey's amazing as always. So this film is based on true life events as well. And during the time, I was a Rustler in high school, things of that nature, right? So I was not a basketball fan by any means. Didn't really watch a lot of basketball. And this is probably around when Michael Jordan era had started, around 86. Yeah, that was probably during like the Craig Elo shot. I think that was the 86 season. But basketball was starting to become a big hot topic. And, Gene Hackman is perfect in this film. Dennis Hopper is one of my favorite actors of all time. I mean, the characters in it are pretty, there's not I wouldn't say there's like a super amount of depth to them, but I think they're very likable characters, right? I want to rephrase that the way I said depth there, but I guess it's just kind of you kind of know what's going to happen going into the film, right? It's kind of a predictable film, right? There's nothing really, crazy, groundbreaking in film technology that's going to happen here in this film, right? But I think it's just perfectly done. It's almost perfectly campy in a way at times, right? But again, Gene Hackman just absolutely awesome in this. Dennis Hopper's character, you're just totally feeling for him through the whole entire thing, and you're just rooting for him. The reality is that folks deal with disease like alcoholisms and drug addictions and things of that nature, right? And so it does tackle those topics, the things that could be possibly going on at home. And but the main thing is the struggle that's going on with Gene Hackman and this basketball team, right? And them coming to terms with running as a complete unit and coming together. And it's just a great feel-good story by the time it's over. It feels like, that's kind of the one issue I do have with the film. It just kind of feels like it's kind of a template of like the Rocky film, sort of, right? It's like, by the time this movie's over, you feel like you did when you first saw Rocky, basically. It's one of those just kind of predictable, feel-good family films by the end of it. So I love Hoosiers. The soundtrack's also fantastic in this. Real quickly, David Anspaugh also directed Rudy, if folks would remember that film as well. And I think he might have directed some episodes of Hill Street Blues, possibly. I have that scribbled down here. Or he was a producer on Hill Street Blues, I believe. So that's my honorable mention there. Is Hoosiers, Mel. Yeah,
I mean, great choice. I mean, it's definitely my top 10, I mean, again, I mean, we can say it's cliche, Hollywood, but, I mean, this is a story of an underdog winning, right? And most sports movies, are like that, right? It's the underdog that goes through a lot of hell, and at the end they prevail, right? Except for Rocky. So anyway, but the original Rocky. So anyway, yeah, but still, it's a well done movie, right? I mean, it's actually a true story too, because Milam High School was like 120 people in that high school, and they won the Indiana State Championship, right, against a large inner city high school, or a large urban high school. So good on them, winning like maybe 6 or 7 players. So, but again, I don't think it could ever happen anymore because this was set way back in the 50s, right? And I think these days, I think it's totally impossible for a small school to win like a big statewide tournament. But still, it was a really good, really good movie. And Jimmy Chitwood, right? He was the Michael Jordan of Hickory High. So you can't beat that. You can't beat that. The Larry Bird of the 1950s, right? Of high school. So, yeah, great. Good movie.
I think the main reason I love this film so much is that I'm a huge Gene Hackman, Dennis Hopper fan, Barbara Hershey fan as well. Mm-hmm. And if you love those actors, sure. I mean, this is a perfect movie to see them at some of their best.
Yeah, and and Dennis Hopper. I mean, I think this was one of his comeback movies, or his first or second comeback movie. After years of drug addiction, alcoholism, and he finally came back, and guess what he played? An alcoholic. So go figure, right? Real life parallels, Hollywood here in a way with that actor. But and I thought he gave a really good performance. And who can ever forget the last play of the game with the picket fence, right? You don't see that anymore. Come on, the picket fence. So try showing that in the NBA. So anyway, so good movie, great choice, and thanks a lot, Dawg. With Hoosiers.
Thank you.
Yeah, as our honorable mention here. And I want to welcome again some more people that stopped by here. We got who do we got here? Bubba Husky. We got Living My Rhapsody. We got Rose Rants on Star Wars. And we have none other than Bridge 4. And thank you, Bridge 4, for buying a t-shirt. I don't have it worn right now. So, but, next time somebody sees Bridge 4, make sure he wears that t-shirt. So, anyway, just kidding, just kidding. So, anyway, no free advertising, I'm not a proponent of that. So, let's go to my honorable mention, and that is a change. It is The Natural. Okay, I saw this recently, and I had to pump it in here to my honorable mention here, and I had to kick out another good movie here. But when I saw it again a couple of weeks ago, I didn't realize how well made this was, and what a magical story this movie was about. Yeah, we know it's a made-up, Major League Baseball team. It was like the third New York, baseball team, the New York Knights. But it was just, again, it was about an underdog, right, or somebody who started out very, very high, then went very, very low, and then basically clawed his way, back to the highest of heights, and then at the end, when Roy Hobbs hits that homer, to basically, win the playoff series for the Knights. It's like, whoa, that was it was just unbelievably Hollywood, but it was great Hollywood. And, and there was a great quote, right, that he said, and he said this to basically one of the corrupt gamblers. Remember that guy, Gus? Yeah, Gus was the caretaker of Roy Hobbs' girlfriend, or the first girlfriend, and he says, they would have said, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was in this game. And what's interesting about this was that Roy Hobbs said this to the Barbara Hershey character in the hotel room. He wanted to be the best in the game, and of course, she shot him. Sorry about the spoilers. And anyway, but no, you had a really, really good cast here. I mean, you had Robert Redford, okay? I read that he was 48 years old when he made this movie. But he was playing, he was 48, but he was playing a 19-year-old as well as a 35-year-old in this movie. But he was like 48 at this time, and 1984. But yeah, Robert Duvall, cool, right?
My favorite actor of all time.
Yeah, nobody hates Robert Duvall. Max Mercy, Kim Basinger, a young Kim Basinger, you know, Glenn Close, and good old Wilford Brimley as Pop Fisher. And yet one of the most iconic villains of all time, otherwise known as the Judge, right? And the only time you ever saw the Judge, right, he was always in a dark room, right? And he always had like that Darth Sidious look, you know what I mean? Kind of in a dark room. He always has hands like this, like he was actually scheming about something. So I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, he was a good villain, right? I mean, he was the owner of the New York Knights, and you know, I mean, I'm sure if you see the movie, you know who the Judge is. But you know, it was just really, really good. And who can forget like Wonder Boy, right? Cracking, right? Wonder Boy, cracking at the end, and then you know, picking out a winner, Bobby. And, you know, here's that home run. I mean, I thought it was a great movie, you know. Yeah, it's cliche, it's Hollywood, but it was cliche Hollywood at one of its finest moments. And in the guise of a sports movie, you know, with the baseball backdrop, you know, which I really like. So that's my honorable mention.
It's a perfect honorable mention here, and I'm glad we get to talk about this film today. I love this film. Robert Redford is one of my favorites, folks, but Robert Duvall is my favorite actor of all time. And you know, I'm kind of sad I did think about having this one. This one was close. That's where I always have struggled with our list sometimes, is on those honorable mentions, those last ones. Sometimes and you feel bad because it's like sometimes some films that you really just love just kind of, you know, they get kind of left out. But yeah, I absolutely love this movie. Growing up, I probably might have seen it more than most other sports films, come to think of it. But it's a perfect fairy tale, you know, for a baseball fan, right? So if you like baseball and fairy tales that kind of go along with it, this is the perfect one here. This is kind of like the Snow White of baseball stories, right?
Yeah. And the remarkable thing is that this wasn't done by Disney either.
Right. And then you have like the bad guy, the Judge, right? He kind of reminded me of the bad guy Nazi in Indiana Jones or the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, yeah.
The guy with the little glasses and that. And,
yeah. He had like a monocle like Mr. Peanut, right? Kind of like this.
What shall we talk about?
And also he set a picture of Gus Sands right in the lower center of the picture, right? He has that all-seeing eye. Remember that scene? I got the all-seeing eye. I know everything. Like, you know, he's a lifelong gambler and he's rich, so I guess he does know something about betting at least. But Barry Levinson's actually a pretty famous director. I think he directed like a couple of really good TV shows too. Like I heard
that name.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Homicide was on NBC was one of those ones that he directed. Yeah.
And I mean, seriously, this is a fan. I mean, whoever did casting on this, you were awesome. You know?
Yeah, the casting was awesome.
Is just perfect. Mm-hmm. So and just brilliantly casted too. So and it's a fairy tale for baseball fans, just like you know, something like Field of Dreams or Mr. Destiny, possibly even in there, I guess. So, but yeah, I love this film. So great choice here, Mel.
All right, cool. And let's go on. So we're done with honorable mentions. So now we're gonna hit our actual top 5 here. Okay.
Big dogs, if you will.
The big dogs, exactly. And numero 5 for dog is
The Bad News Bears, the original, folks, from 1976, directed by Michael Ritchie, starring Walter Matthau and Tatum O'Neal at about her peak at that time. So, and Tatum O'Neal is, you know, I think she had just come off of winning an Oscar for Paper Moon, I believe. Might be wrong. I think it was Paper Moon. It was called. But she was like the youngest, you know, actress to ever win an Oscar at that time. But she's absolutely brilliant in this film. Again, this just shows the film shows the drama of baseball with kind of what's going on with the domestic life, if you will, right? The relationships with fathers and sons and fathers and daughters, and what folks will do to get their kids to just win a little league championship, right? And how adults at times lose their way and forget about what the game is truly about, especially at that age, is we're here to learn how to play baseball, right, and how to have fun playing baseball, and learning the fundamentals of playing baseball. But the music is perfectly used. I think there's a lot of Tchaikovsky in there, but it's perfectly used to just show the drama of baseball. And I played a lot of baseball growing up and all the way through high school and things of that nature, right? So I know all about the drama of baseball, every play, all the things that go on. And so when I see baseball movies, and a lot of times I get drawn into things of that nature, right? But Walter Matthau is perfect as Buttermaker. I believe I want to say Vic Morrow. Yeah, Vic Morrow played the coach of the Denny's team, the Denny's squad, and I believe we lost him in the Twilight Zone film. But
that's right.
Vic Morrow's in it again, and Tatum O'Neal, of course, and then the whole crew, Tanner and what's the heavy kid's name? I forgot again.
It was Engelbert.
Engelbert. Yeah. There's chocolate on the ball. Chocolate gives you energy, and I need energy.
Yeah, it was Engelbert, and there was Ogilvy was the nerdy kid, right?
Lupus,
Lupus, Ogilvy,
the statistician,
and that one dude who
Ahmad.
Who's the Jackie Earl Haley guy? The one that rode the motorcycle, the bad boy.
That was Kelly Leak.
Kelly Leak. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was a great movie. Anything else, Dawg?
But yeah, I just wanted to say when you see, when I see characters like that, it just reminds me of back in the, growing up with the kids on, playing ball and stuff like that. And all those characters, I could basically just take a character like there was a Kelly Leak growing up on my block, right? There was an Ogilvy, and there was a Lupus, and there was, all those things. And it reminds you so much of those times when you watch this film. If you played baseball growing up or played team sports of that nature, and but yeah, I love the original. Even the remake with Billy Bob is good.
It's pretty good.
I did enjoy it, but it's just not the one with Walter Matthau. It just isn't. So
no, it isn't. Getting back to the movie here, I love this movie too because playing Little League and whatnot. I kind of stopped when I was about 13, but still, it was a great movie. And the best thing about this movie, the funny thing about this movie is that if you had a coach drinking beer in the dugout in today's world, they would get arrested, right? Especially, passing beer to like his players, right? And having them drink after a game. Like Buttermaker would be so arrested right now. It would be funny. It would be horrible. But, back then in the 70s when this movie came out, it was okay, and there's no harm to this whatsoever, they lost. They celebrated by losing in the final game, and they had fun, and they started drinking beer. There's nothing wrong with that, so it was great. So it's too bad that we can't go back, in terms of some of the social values of the 1970s, but that's another topic for another day. Anyway, it was, I loved it. It was great cast of characters, really, really memorable characters, of course, with Kelly Leak and Buttermaker and Tanner, right? And Tanner was like the Arya Stark, before Arya Stark.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
She is Arya Stark in this film, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Her arm gets kind of blown out by the end of it, whereas Arya, she'd still take down the Night King or strike out everybody. Arya would strike out everybody. But the other thing I wanted to mention real quick, folks, was that Michael Ritchie also directed Fletch, Wildcats, and The Golden Child. So if you remember those films, Michael Ritchie, I believe he also directed those as well. Mm-hmm. And those are pretty fun films. I don't know if I'd like The Golden Child as much as the other two, Fletch and Wildcats, but they're fun films too.
Yeah. And one last thing before I go to my number 5 here. The classic scene was when all the Little League teams were out on the ball, out in the field, during the opening ceremonies, right? And they were all showing off all their sponsors, right? You had Denny's, you had Taco Bell, right? Everything else. And then the Bad News Bears with Chico's bail bonds. That was freaking awesome. It's too bad that Chico never showed up to a game. Because when I was playing Little League, our sponsors actually showed up to the game, right? But I mean, can you imagine if Chico actually showed up to this game, to some of the games?
That would have been perfect.
That would have been perfect. Anyway, so yeah, great choice, dog. Number 5, man, the Bad News Bears. And check out the soundtrack by Chavosky. And my number 5 is Draft Day. I mean, you're a big Cleveland Browns fan, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't know. I like this movie. I love this movie. Some people hate it, but I thought this was really, really entertaining. And maybe it's because I like Kevin Costner as an actor, but I thought this was really, really well done. 2014, sure, it's a little bit unrealistic, but whatever, And in that line, at the end when he was making all these deals, and then he was basically dealing with the Seahawks general manager, and his main line was, I want my picks back, and that was, that's the only way that he can get Bo Callahan, right, to start QB, was to get his picks back, and he got his picks back. But, you had a really good list here, right? You had Kevin Costner cast. You had Jennifer Garner, Dennis Leary, right? Dennis Leary was pretty cool. Frank Langella, and you had the Black Panther himself, Chadwick Boseman, in there as Vontae Mack, right? The number 1 draft pick of the draft. Excuse the director, it's not Barry Levinson, it's probably somebody else. But anyway, I thought it was a really well done story. I mean, some was unbelievable, especially the wheeling and dealing he was making at the end, I mean, he kind of made that Jaguars GM look like a total chump, but trading away his number 6 pick for 3 number 2s. But anyway, I thought it was still pretty fun, nevertheless, and I thought it was very well acted, and I liked it. I think it gave you a peek into the dynamics of what football teams and general managers go through during draft day, during the actual draft day, because I mean, you're having all these deals being done at the last minute, and that's pretty much the truth here. I mean, teams are freaking struggling, in terms of who they're going to pick number 1, during that day. It's stressful for these guys, because you basically are promising, you're basically making a multi-million-dollar investment in a kid, right? That can impact, your team for the next couple of years. So it's, I liked it. I liked it because of that, of the insight to the NFL drafting process. It's a lot better than what ESPN shows in real life. And I thought it was, very well acted. And I have no issues, putting this as my number 5. And I hope you don't have an issue, dog, because your Cleveland Browns, came out.
I'm a Cleveland Browns fan since probably 1978. So I remember the days of the Cardiac Kids and Brian Sipe, and getting into Mac and Biner and Bernie Kosar and the Dogs, the Dog defense, and then where we are today, which is looking a little better today than it was for the last freaking 20 years, when they actually when they just took my team and just got rid of them, right, and just turned them into Baltimore. And then they gave us the pile of what we've been getting for since 1999, right, which has been absolute the worst. You can't even make a film about a bad sports team that's actually worse than the Cleveland Browns, right? You'd actually have to take actual real life footage, right, and show that in the film, right, to do better than what the film could actually do, right? Because the Cleveland Browns have been an absolute joke, a pitiful joke since they have returned since 1999. One playoff appearance that they backed into, but now things are looking a little bit better, right? We've got a little bit of Baker Mayfield's coming around here, so I'm interested in this season, and I want to see them take down some tough teams for once, right? So I saw them take down some weak teams. They were kind of close in some games. I would not watch this film at the time, Milt, because this film came out during some of the most pitiful, deplorable times for a Cleveland Browns fan, right? I mean, it was just a really horrible time, and it felt like, the only way we can win something is they got to freaking write a movie about it, right? They got to, know the Cleveland Browns are going to win on this. If this would have been like, say, the Philadelphia Eagles or like the Jacksonville, he was the GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars, I probably would have enjoyed it. I probably would have seen it earlier. Now, that being said, I saw the film probably like 2 years after it came out, and I enjoyed the film. So and again, I just kind of put away that this is kind of based on my team sort of thing, and just kind of got into the characters a little bit more, right? So, and for the most part, I like most Kevin Costner films. I guess I'd say a good 65% of them. I like him. I like Dennis Leary for the most part too, and Wakanda Forever. So, but I enjoyed the struggles that he was going through. And by the end of it, and I just kind of looked at it as, from an acting standpoint and things of that nature. But it was a good film. It was worth the watch. I went into this film thinking I was absolutely going to hate it. Mm-hmm. No, I did. I honestly did. I thought I was going to absolutely hate it. And by the time I walked out, it was one of those films where I thought I was going to hate it, but I'm like, hey, you know what? I'd probably rewatch it actually. So. Yeah. Now, hopefully my Cleveland Browns, and appreciate you folks letting me rant about my Cleveland Browns. It's been a rough ride since, like I said, 1978, man. So, but yeah, we're looking to do some damage this year. I'm cautiously optimistic.
And who can ever forget Brian Sipes' interception against Mike Davis in the AFC divisional playoff games against my Oakland Raiders in 1980.
I cried watching a football game. I never cried again watching a football game, but that was the first and only time I cried.
Yeah.
After watching a football game was when Sipe threw that interception. So.
Yeah. So go Oakland Raiders. Soon to be.
Over on the one side you were cheering, the other side the little third grader Dawg was balling there in 1981, January 1981.
It was something like that. I saw the highlights. But anyway, soon to be the Las Vegas Raiders next season, evidently. So anyway, that's my pick, Draft Day 2014. And Kevin Costner is one of my favorite actors, no matter what anybody else says in the chat. So let's go to number 4 for Dawg. And what do you have, Dawg?
Oh, yeah. I forgot. I was sitting there thinking about my Cleveland Browns for a second. I lost it for a second. Folks, my number 4 here is The Rustler, and which possibly might, no, I wouldn't quite say that, but I was thinking, if I just looked at it as a film per se, it might actually be the best film on my list, but no, I'm going to take that back. So I think my number 1 is definitely the best film on my list. But absolutely love this film. I was, back in, I guess, early 80s. That's kind of when I started around early 80s. I watched wrestling for a long time, up until kind of when it kind of turned into smut, probably in the mid 90s, I think, when I started doing all the, just trying to do, skin and all that crap, and the smut show, I called it, right? So, I kind of stopped watching wrestling. It kind of turned into not wrestling so much as more of, just people out there kind of standing around doing interviews a lot of times, which, you got to mix the two with wrestling, right? It's kind of a, for folks like me at the time, it was like, it's kind of our soap opera, right? Instead of watching General Hospital or, The Guiding Light and all those, the nighttime shows, the kids were watching wrestling, right? They wanted to see what was going to happen on Piper's Pit, right? Next week with Jimmy Superfly Snuka coming in and the drama that kind of goes with the storylines, all that stuff, right? That being said, there's a whole inside world that kind of, that we're kind of tuned out of, right? Because we're just kind of drawn into those characters, watching them wrestle on Saturdays and things of that nature, right? But this film is just absolutely, it's not like it's not one of those films you're gonna probably walk out of going, feeling like Rocky or something like that, right? It's not a totally melancholic ending, but for somebody that does love melancholy, this is a perfect film for me, right? I absolutely love Randy the Ram. Mickey Rourke is one of my favorite actors as well, right? You have Tomei, right? What was her first name?
It's Marissa Tomei,
right? Mm-hmm. She's in this too. The girl from Westworld's also in it for a bit too. Dolores, I forgot what the hell her name is.
Evan Rachel Wood.
Evan Rachel Wood. I'm fired tonight. But again, this kind of he kind of reminded me of and Mick Foley, you know, he's been through a hell of a lot more than this. And I was watching a lot of the things that he was going through, you know, like the documentaries they were doing on him and things of that nature, the stuff he was putting himself through. And there's just like a scene in the first, you know, where you see him getting all the staples taken out of his back and all the things of that nature. And then how he's got to take these drugs, you know, to kind of come up, you know, or he's got to take these painkillers to come down. He's got to take, he's just constantly mixing and matching and making, drug cocktails basically, right? I mean, it's just, but you just totally feel for the guy. You want him to succeed, and it's rough for him because when he's outside that wrestling world, he just does not fit in, right? He can't work at the deli counter, right? He can't even play video games with his next door neighbor kid because he's way back in 1982, whereas this kid's on Modern Warfare or Call of Duty 4 or something, right? But absolutely love this character. I love the film, and if you're a wrestling fan, even if you're not so much a wrestling fan, just a film fan in general, I'd say definitely check out The Rustler. Just a fantastic film. Any notes I had on this one? David Aronofsky also did Pi and Requiem for a Dream. So that is just a dark, one of the most dark films I've ever seen. Also is Requiem for a Dream, as well with Jenny something, awesome actress too, one of my favorite actresses too. But that'll come back to me.
Yeah,
but she was in A Beautiful Mind, and I think she won Best Actress for that one. Possibly.
Well, Dawg, this movie was actually on my
Connolly.
It was like my honorable mention last time, but I took it out only because of the other two movies that kind of like took its place here. And when I remembered when I talked about it last time, I told you, right, that I could only watch this movie once because it was just so powerful and it was so sad and depressing, and this is coming from a guy who hasn't seen pro wrestling, in many, many, many years, right? Since, probably the NWO, right, as a kid in the, late 90s, early 2000s. So, but to me, in terms of actually being a movie, it was great. I mean, if you had to make a really dark, Rocky and depressing Rocky movie, this would be it. This is your dark, depressing Rocky of the day, of its day, is The Wrestler, right? It's not very uplifting at all, right? It's really depressing, and it's so sad to see what this wrestler is going through. He's past his prime. They show scenes of him basically wrestling to 50,000 people crowds, and in the beginning he's wrestling at some AARP convention, right, with like 30 people in the audience, and it's just sad. He's basically juicing up, taking drugs, and he's basically falling in love with strippers, and, he's estranged from his daughter. They get back together, but then he screws up and they're not together, any longer. And it's just really, really depressing. And that final scene, we don't know. I mean, the doctor warned him, he only had one good round left. I mean, do we know if he dies or not? We don't know, because the scene just cuts out of him doing his, Randy the Ram Robinson. What's that movie does where he jumps
Ram
off?
Jam.
Yeah, the Ram Jam. The Ram Jam. So, and just cuts right there. So, sorry about the spoilers, guys. But, I've only seen this movie once. I mean, it's just too depressing to see it again, guys. I mean, I can't see it anymore. I mean, once it was enough for me in this movie, but it was really, really good because it was so powerful. But it was just too depressing for me and just too dark. So, but yeah, great choice. It definitely deserved its nomination. I think it did get nominated for Best Movie, and Mickey Rourke did a really, really, really good job here. So, I liked it. I loved it. For that one-time view.
real quickly, that was
Yeah.
a perfect analogy you made about how this film is. It is almost replicant of Rocky.
Yeah, yeah.
I might get into that later, but
Yeah, it reminds you of Rocky, but
it's a darker version of Rocky. That's
exactly.
a
Yeah.
perfect analogy.
Yeah. If somebody like Bruce Bolton, right, wrote the script for Rocky, it would be like The Wrestler.
Right. But again,
just kidding. Maybe not Bruce Bolton, but you know.
But the only thing I want to add with that is that when we look at a film like Rocky, right, they have iconic characters that we love, things of that nature.
Yeah.
This film does too, but just kind of in a different way too. They're great characters.
Yeah.
All of them were.
Yeah. The more I think about it, maybe if Euron Greyjoy wrote a sports movie, it'll be The Wrestler. Okay. Yeah, it'd be that dark and that crazy. So anyway, it's good. Great movie. It's definitely deserved its praises back then. What, 2010, 2009 or something like that when it came out?
2008.
2008, yeah. And so yeah, great choice. Number 4, The Wrestler. And it's time for my number 4. And Dawg, what can we say about this movie? Yep, it is The Karate Kid from 1984. It's the Star Wars of karate, guys. It had everything. Mr. Miyagi as Yoda, Ralph Macchio, Daniel LaRusso as Luke Skywalker, Johnny Lawrence as Darth Vader. It was great, and also, what would Kreese be? Would he be Darth Sidious? Probably. So anyway, yeah. And I love this movie as a kid, and there's no reason why anybody would hate on this movie unless you had no soul whatsoever. You had these great quotes. Never. It's like the Yoda quotes from Mr. Miyagi. Never put passion in front of principle. And of course the good old fashioned sweep the leg remark, and also people still use the old wax on wax off line, in everyday talk. I mean, you just can't beat this. So, Ralph Macchio, Pat Morita, Elizabeth Shue, and Martin Kove is John Kreese here. And they actually have a new series out on YouTube that everybody should check out. It's called Cobra Kai, dealing with the main antagonist and protagonist of this movie 25 years or 30 years later. And there's nothing more I can really say about this, because for Dawg's number 3, it is what?
Guess what, folks? Yeah, my number 3 is also The Karate Kid. And you know what? What could Yoda beat Mr. Miyagi? That is a fantastic question. And you know what? Bridge 4 has already made kind of confirmed that Mr. Miyagi is definitely in that conversation of who is the greatest fighter in the history of on-screen film, right? Mr. Miyagi is in that conversation as Bridge 4 is just commented there.
Well, first of all, Bridge, is that Yoda has the Force, so the Force kind of trumps any kind of physical skills that Mr. Miyagi has. Mr. Miyagi only has Zen. A fairer and a better comparison would be, would Mr. Miyagi beat Serial Pharrell? Only because those two are kind of like philosophical fighters and teachers. So would Mr. Miyagi beat Serial Pharrell? I would say yes. I mean, I would put my money on Mr. Miyagi beating Serial Pharrell, honestly. So, and that's just me, okay? It could be, you guys might feel differently because everybody has a crush on Serial Pharrell. We all know that. But Mr. Miyagi is pretty freaking good. So, anyway, go ahead, continue on with your analysis of The Karate Kid. I mean, one of the greatest movies of my childhood.
It is. And again, this is directed by John G. Alvinson, right? Alvinson?
Yeah.
Correct? Who also directed
John Alvinson.
films like Rocky.
Yeah.
And Rocky 3, Rocky 5 even. He died in 2017. I'm trying to think of any other thing he might have possibly directed there, but he has the perfect template. Like when you look at the Rocky films, right? Even a Rocky 3 film, right? And he used that perfect template with the Karate Kid. And I absolutely I remember this was a film that I didn't go in kind of like with Draft Day where I was going, I'm going to hate this film, right? I just didn't think I was going to like completely love it like I did when I first walked in. I'm going to go see the Karate Kid movie, right? And first thing I noticed was, holy, it's Arnold from Happy Days, right? I noticed Moni recognized him too, right? So I was like, oh man, 'cause I didn't know what happened to Arnold for a long time, right? So, yeah, he is one of the greatest, most iconic characters in the history of film.
Yeah.
You know, tell me I'm wrong about that. Mr. Miyagi is definitely in that conversation, right? So,
For sure.
by the time you got done with this film, you were just like, oh man, could I really, just learn how to wax all the cars and sand all the floors, paint the house for everybody.
Yeah, and don't tell me after you watch this. Don't tell me after you watch this as a kid that you didn't try to practice that crane kick.
Right.
On somebody.
Oh yeah, everybody's doing that crane thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I tried doing that to my little brother.
Was.
Okay, I tried doing that to my little brother. The crane kick. It's a lot tougher in real life than it is in the movie to do that crane kick move, man. I'm telling you, that thing's hard to do. Okay, so anyway, it's a great, funny story I have about the first time I actually ever saw The Karate Kid or even heard about The Karate Kid. Back in middle school, I'm not sure back in your heyday, Dog, but in my heyday, in middle school, I was in 8th grade, and sometimes the teachers, they didn't want to deal with kids anymore, so they basically just slapped on a movie in a VCR and just had the kids just watch a movie, right? Because they didn't want to deal with them. It was like movie day, in 8th grade. It was I think my social studies class or something like that. Anyway, guess what movie that he picked in the VCR?
You guys got to watch Karate Kid, really?
Yeah, it was Karate Kid, exactly.
No way.
Yeah, it was craziness. And I don't know why I watched Karate Kid, but I guess the teacher liked Karate Kid, so they made us watch it. But at that point, I was hooked, man. It was great, And of course, you always had the kids making fun, of the Japanese guy, just right, catching flies with chopsticks. But that kind of irked me a little bit. But still, it was, but you couldn't help but cheer at the end, when Daniel LaRusso wins the tournament by doing that crane kick move.
Right. Yeah. No. And then your Star Wars analogy is perfect too. With that too, right? We have our Mr. Miyagi as our Yoda. We have our Luke Skywalker character. And Daniel LaRusso, Johnny is the Darth Vader, right? And I believe Kreese would be our Palpatine here, right? And folks, if you're a Karate Kid fan and still have not yet watched Cobra Kai, season 1 or 2, check out Cobra Kai, at least season 1 for God's sakes. If you love this film like we did, I think you're absolutely gonna love Cobra Kai. Yeah, and I loved season 2 just as much as I loved season 1. So. And it's tough, and it's kind of tough to say that because I usually don't like a lot of television shows a lot of times, but I was very pleased with Cobra Kai.
Yeah, and do you remember when the Cobra Kai season 2 came out, was just about ready to come out, right? We did a couple of streams, and we actually, I think, admitted on air that we were actually looking forward more to the Cobra Kai season 2 coming out than Game of Thrones season 8 episode 1, because they both came out in late April, and it was like, dang man, I'm more hyped about Cobra Kai season 2 than Game of Thrones, only because it's really, really well done, guys. Okay, the Cobra Kai TV show, and it is on YouTube Premium, so go ahead and check it out. But it's really, really well done, and they do a lot of callbacks, okay, to the original Karate Kid movie, and even the 80s stuff, it's interesting too. It's not like Stranger Things 80s stuff. It's more like, high school 80s stuff, than middle school or elementary school 80s stuff, like in Stranger Things. But still, it's kind of the same kind of deal. And love this movie, man. Dog, any last words on this?
I love the Karate Kid, man.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
This is one of those films you would never. I've just never got sick of watching it. It's like it's kind of like a Forrest Gump or something, right? Or Shawshank, or it's just one of those films where you could just Caddyshack, Airplanes, you could put it in and you just never get sick of it. Star Wars, the original Star Wars. Yeah. Not the crap they produce today.
Yeah, I mean, and this is definitely a great movie. Harkens back to a lot of stuff. So Karate Kid was my number 4, and it was Dog's number 3. So we're down to my number 3, and it is, all right, guys. If you don't like this movie, then I know you have no soul, okay? Because I've been accused of not having a soul because I never watched The Lion King. If you haven't seen this movie or you hate this movie, then you have problems, seriously. And it's none other than Field of Dreams from 1989. Again, with my man, Kevin Costner, if you build it, he will come. Who will come? Is this heaven? No, it's Iowa. And lastly, the tearjerker line of the whole movie at the end. Dad, you want to play catch? God, man, come on, seriously, that brings tears to me every single time I actually see that scene. And no, it's great. I mean, the cast was awesome. Kevin Costner and Amy Madigan. Do you remember that scene at the PTA meeting where, like, Amy Madigan's character just shoots down, like, what's her name? Helga or whatever her name is, the one that was trying to burn books. I thought that was awesome. Ray Liotta, he plays Shooters Joe Jackson. He's the guy that comes out the cornfield in the beginning. James Earl Jones, and he plays the hermit or the aloof author, and he's going to write a book about what?
Terrence Mann.
Yeah, Terrence Mann, exactly. Yeah, and now he's going to write a book about baseball in Iowa, and it's written by a director called Phil A. Robinson, who directed it, and I don't know what other movies he did after this, but he did a really good movie here, and it's Field of Dreams. I can watch this all the time too. Every time it's on TV, I just stop and just basically watch this movie. It's just great. It's really not about baseball more than it's just about the story. About like the field and basically Kevin Costner's character basically reconnecting with his father at the end. And basically, trying to address all the issues that they had before when he was growing up. But the baseball backdrop is just perfect for this movie, and it's really, really, really so well done. And who can forget, like, Burt Lancaster, right? Moonlight Graham, right? Moonlight Graham, guys. And I think that was one of his last movies before he passed away, and he was a great actor as well. And this is so good. It had bits of drama, and it had lots of really funny moments in it. And that last scene was just such a tearjerker, if a tear doesn't come out of your eye, that last scene when he actually, realizes it's his dad and he wants to actually play catch with them, then you really don't have a soul. So, I loved it. And it's one of my top 3 favorites, Field of Dreams from 1989.
Great pick here, Mel. And I'll tell you what, though, I don't remember if I was crying at the end of this, though, but the James Earl Jones speech when he talked about, baseball, Ray.
Yeah.
And just the speech he gives about baseball. And again, my video games and all that stuff, to me, I like playing coin operated games at that time. But, if I wasn't in school, I was playing baseball or I was playing football, but pretty much throughout the whole entire summer for all the years I was growing up, I was always playing baseball. Baseball was my life. And I love the freaking sport of baseball, right? So when I heard James Earl Jones' speech about baseball, that started, it was almost like watching, the Champ or Old Yeller at the time for me, right? So not quite like Old Yeller, but it was hitting the feels here, right? This is a perfect, again, we talked about The Natural being kind of it's a fairy tale, right? But it's just a perfectly done fairy tale. I mean, did you not want to hop in the van with those guys and just go across country, and just go on an adventure with them? I mean, it was just the part when he goes to actually get Terrence Mann and capture him. He's like, I have to take you to a baseball game. It's like,
yeah. I remember he had his hand in his jacket, right, pocket, and pretended it was a gun. Come on, you can't beat that. Yeah, no. And talk about your speech, right, with about James Earl Jones. Yeah, he said that. Okay, regardless of all the social revolutions in America, all the up times, all the down times in American history. Okay, and from the 19th century on, what is the one constant? It's baseball. It's never changed, and people can always watch a baseball game. So, and that's it is the American dream, the American sport, right? So American pastime. So, it's one of the best baseball movies of all time. I loved it. So it's one of my favorites.
And again, real quickly, great character. Just again, I was mentioning about hopping on that van with them, but all the way through, they're just a great cast again here, right? It's just it's a great production, of course, and it's one of Kevin Costner's best films for sure. So it's in that 65% zone I talked about of Kevin Costner films I like.
Yeah, Linda R mentioned that the greatest game ever played. Yes, I had that as number 5 from last time, and that was a great movie, but it was knocked out this time. That's a great movie about golf. If you ever want to get basically watch a heartwarming true story about golf, okay, it's the greatest game that's ever played. Okay, so what am I doing here? Number 2 for Dawg. Take it away.
Oh, my number 2. I had to change my note, but yes, mine is the original Rocky here, folks. So from 1976. Yeah, 1976, directed by John Avildsen. Again, I think it's our only sports film. I can't think of one that have we had another one since Rocky that's won the Academy Award, Milt? I know we talked about one that got nominated.
Yes, Chariots of Fire won it in 1980.
Oh, Chariots of Fire. Yeah, very good. Yep. But yeah, other than that, so this film is based on the life of Chuck Wepner, right? He went toe-to-toe with Muhammad Ali, and I believe he didn't answer the bell in the 15th possibly, but he actually scored like a standing 8 count against Ali in the beginning of the fight, right? So it inspired Stallone to write the character Rocky, and arguably, I mean, seriously, we were talking, the most iconic characters of all time in the history of film, right? I think Rocky's probably going to be mentioned, as one of the most iconic characters of all time, like the Wicked Witch of the West or Darth Vader, right? Name some, Milt. You know what I mean, right?
Darth Vader.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Icons, right? So, another brilliant cast here. I mean, we have Burt Young and Mickey's character there.
Burgess Meredith.
Burgess Meredith, the Twilight Zone guy, right? So, and the Penguin as well. So Burgess Meredith, as Mickey, of course. This might not be necessarily, this is definitely my favorite of all of them. I think it's just the best film. If I just looked at all of the Rocky films, I enjoyed 2, I enjoyed 3, of course. 4 is just a fun movie to watch all the way through, right? Even though it's kind of, we kind of feel like we're jumping off a cliff here at times, right? It's kind of gone WWE a little bit, right? But it's still just a absolute, it's still a fun film to watch. Even Rocky 5 has its moments. I didn't really care for the new ones as much, but this one is just the one that started it all out, folks. I mean, it's really, when we talked about the Rustler earlier, right? This is kind of even though this is an older film, this is kind of a lighter version of the Rustler, right? We don't really see Rocky struggling so much with hardcore drugs so much as he's, smoking cigarettes, maybe drinking a few too many beers here and there, right? He's collecting for people that he probably shouldn't be hanging around, right? Things of that nature, right? But he's struggling just as Randy the Ram Johnson was, right? He can't fit in, kind of on the outside world. He's got to be in the fight, right? But, he gets an unlikely shot at the heavyweight championship of the world. And we get to see his struggles, the freaking training montages, the music, right?
Yeah.
And again, the fantastic characters, right? We get to meet Paulie and Mickey and Rocky at their absolute best, right? And we see some good, funny, corny things with them in the other films, but this is the heart of them, right?
Yeah.
I think this is the real heart of, those scenes that you see Mickey and Rocky, where, you don't like my place, it stinks, right? And the struggles that, I was calling you for 5 years and you didn't do nothing for me then, and I'm trying to think back of their argument and things of that nature, but kind of how, their struggles in the beginning where, Mickey kind of was throwing Rocky into the street, cleaned out his locker, and then, seeing those two come together, right, to damn near take down the heavyweight champion of the world. So, and it was kind of like one of those films where it was like, oh, you know what? We don't have to win the championship to make it a good movie, right? Rocky, he loses in a split decision, but so what? It was, the film was perfect and it set the template. This was the template for our films like The Karate Kid, you know, and the Rustler, things of that nature. Now, and pretty much any sports film that has the, you know, some sort of training montage involved with it, or even a movie for it doesn't even have to be necessarily sports. We've seen them in other films too, right, where we just have that montage going, and you know, we have Rocky to thank for that, I think. So
yeah.
Yeah,
Dog. Yeah, great pick. Classic movie. You know, and you know, one of the most memorable scenes for me in this movie was, you know, when he was training, right, and he went over to Paulie's workplace, right, because Paulie worked at a meat place, a meat packing shop, right, and then he suggested that Rocky train by basically hitting big frozen hunks of meat. You know, break the ribs, right? You know, if a man can't breathe, he can't punch or something like that, right? And essentially, you know, that's where he got his power to basically beat the crap out of, you know, in terms of, you know, beat the crap out of Paulo Creed in terms of giving him internal injuries, you know, at the end. And yeah, I thought that was great, you know. And then, you know, everything else, you know, every other training montage in subsequent Rocky movies pretty much one-upped the original training montage. You ever notice that, right? In Rocky 4, right, he's in the middle of the Russian forest, right, basically cutting down trees and carrying logs and doing push-ups with, like, you know, big logs. You know, it's like, you know, it's, you know, I mean, it got to be crazy in terms of these training montages, but the original one was probably the best, obviously. And you remember that one scene where, you know, his first training day, right, he basically just downed a couple of raw eggs and started running. I'll never forget that, you know, just basically, oh, that's how they train. Just basically you know, down a couple of raw eggs and away I go. So, yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention
really
quickly about it is in the beginning of the film, right? Because, you know, we've met Rocky a little bit, right? We've seen his fight with Spider Rico and things of that nature, but I think he's at a bar. And the bartender kind of offends him because he sees Apollo Creed up there, right, talking about his fight with Green coming up and things of that nature, right? Yeah. And then he mentions, he's like, oh, turn that clown off or something, right? And then Rocky's just like, you just called the heavyweight champion of the world a clown? Yeah. Right? I mean, you could just see that Rocky loves the sport of boxing, right? He absolutely respects the sport of boxing. Yeah. He has respect for the guy that wears that belt, right? Yep. And, you know, to call him a clown is not, you know, in Rocky's presence wasn't, you know, that was one thing I appreciated about the film. Yeah. No, with that moment.
Now, of course, in today's world, right? I mean, boxers can't get away with wearing like a stovepipe hat, right, with the stars and stripes on it, like Apollo Creed did in the movies, right? I think that stuff is over and done for. I think you can't do that anymore. But back then in the 70s, you know, why not? You know, anything went. So let it be, right? That's a generation. Just let it be.
Master of disaster, the king of sting.
Yep.
The Count of Monte Fisto.
Yep. He was a great boxer, anyway. Yep, good stuff. And Rocky, iconic movie, classic movie, and it was written, right? And it was written by Sylvester Stallone,
right? Yeah,
too,
he was based off the Chuck Wepner story, and he was inspired by Chuck Wepner. If you've never, you know, you check out Chuck Wepner's fight against Muhammad Ali, or Chuck Wepner's life is a pretty interesting story too. I meant to actually put a picture of him in this scene here. Forgive me, but that inspired Stallone to write Rocky.
Okay.
Made millions after that.
All right. And my number two, let's get back to my number two, is none other than 1981 Oscar winning movie that won the Best Picture, Chariots of Fire. Okay. And this, if you guys haven't seen this, it's not popular anymore for whatever reason. Okay. It's not one of these movies that you kind of remember now, you know, or even then it wasn't really that popular, but it still won the Academy Award. You know, this is a really, really good movie, guys. Check it out. Okay. It's basically about the 1924 British team from Great Britain, right? Running the track team from Great Britain. And basically it centers around two characters, right? Two of the kind of like the stars or the the best runners on the British team, and how they basically, ended up on the Olympic team, with but they had totally wild, completely different paths to get there. And at the end of the day, they both win gold medals. And it's really, really, really well done, guys. And a lot of these actors you probably haven't heard of ever since, and they made this movie. Ben Cross, Ian Charleston, Nigel Havers, Ian Holm. I think I remember Ian Holm. The guy that played Harry Potter's uncle, what was his name? He was in this movie too.
Gary Oldman?
No, the big fat guy, right? He played Harry Potter's uncle.
Oh, Vernon.
Yeah, Vernon Dudley, right? But he was actually in this movie as one of like the ushers or the one of the ushers of Cambridge, if you will. And but really, really, really well done. The story is amazing. Okay, of each of these main characters, is really amazing, and it was just very uplifting, especially at the end when they actually succeed. Even though they took completely different paths to get there, based on a true story, of course, right? And the actual real life characters, if you want to look them up, is Harold Abrahams, who was the sprinter that won the 100 meter, and Eric Liddell, who won the 400, and their story, their real life stories were really, really fascinating as well. And in one case, it was very tragic. But really, really, really good movie. And who can ever forget like the soundtrack of this movie? It basically hit number one, right, in the U.S.
Instantly.
Yeah, instantly. It was so catchy, and it was so fit for the movie. And it was great. Don't make movies like this anymore because there was none of this extraneous BS that went on. And loved it. Chariots of Fires, guys. Check it out. Definitely check it out.
Definitely check out that film. That is a fantastic film. Fantastic production, and great acting. It definitely, you see why it won the Academy Award when you definitely see it. It wasn't just all about. I mean, it had an absolutely fantastic soundtrack too, of course, right? And then you knew once you heard that tune, it was an instant hit. Yeah. Right. It was like when you heard "Ragtime" from the Sting or something, right? It was just going to be one of those show tune or a film, a score from a film like Star Wars or something, right? When you hear that music, Star Wars music, you just know what you're hearing right away. When you start hearing that Chariots of Fire, it just instantly it's impossible really to not know what film that's from. You know what I'm saying? It's so. Whereas there's other films still today, it's like, what did the music sound like from, say Jurassic Park or something, right? I don't remember, But I remember Chariots of Fire for sure, and when Darth Vader walks in, I know what the music sounds like for that too.
Yeah. Dun 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 dun.
If you're a track fan too, or just fan of films and drama and the coming together. At the end and the struggles in between and things of that nature. Perfect film.
Yeah, it's a great drama. I mean, it's like almost like the quintessential sports drama, and it's why it's my number two. So I always watch this movie too. It's a great movie to rewatch. It has a really high rewatchability, and you can't say that. You really can't say that about a lot of sports movies, but this really does have a lot of rewatchability value because it's just so interesting, so historically accurate. So I just love it. Wow, man, we're down to our number ones, dog.
Whoa,
we
already
really
there.
are down to our number ones, and
my number one is folks from 1980, I believe. Yeah, Raging Bull. Directed by Martin Scorsese, starring Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Kathy Moriarty, who was only 17 years old at the time. So, I think it's based on the life of famous boxer, middleweight, I believe, or welterweights they were, Jake LaMotta. So about 130 pounds, I think they were, maybe 140 pounders. But yeah, Jake LaMotta, he fought Sugar Ray Robinson, right? That was some of his more famous fights. But this is one of those films, Milt, that we've talked about before where, like I've always talked about, like as far as being a great film to me, it's got to have that rewatchability factor, right? Rewatchability, right? But films like The Rustler that you mentioned prior to, and films like this, I think are, you know, I can honestly say I've only seen this film maybe 3 times total. But I've always watched it all the way through each of those times, right? And I'm still in awe of how fantastic it is, right? It's one of those films that's so great. I just feel like I don't need to watch it again. It's like Schindler's List to me, right? I've only seen Schindler's List maybe 2 or 3 times as well. And to me, it's one of the greatest films ever made or directed. And to me, this is Martin Scorsese. I could almost say at his very best here. It's definitely, I can say with confidence, this is my favorite role that, or I think this is Robert De Niro's best acting performance ever. This was his first Oscar for Best Actor, right? For sure, for Best Actor in a Lead Role. He had won Best Supporting Actor, I know. I'm trying to think of when Godfather 2 had came out, and he had played the younger Vito Corleone, but he had won a Best Supporting Actor for playing that role. But this was his first Oscar as a lead actor, if I'm not mistaken on that. So, but absolutely fantastic movie. It's tough to watch at times, though, folks. So if you don't like things like domestic violence and just paranoid freaking people, this might not be the film for you. But if you're okay with, you know, crossing those boundaries and into that nature, that genre, you know, check this out. It can be disturbing at times, but again, if you love the genre of acting and films and things of that nature, I think it's a must watch. It's a must watch, but you know, again, like I said, it's one of those perfect films that you just don't need to rewatch, right? It's just that great. I think on our last stream that we did with this, Milt, I think Academy Awards were coming out around that time, and I'd seen the film Roma, right?
Roma.
And all the accolades that film was getting. I absolutely hated that film. But I'd seen like some of the cinematography, the things they were doing. I'm like, oh, that's amazing, right? But Scorsese was doing this in 1980, you know, with this film, right? He turned this film in black and white the whole way through, right? And it looked just as great as what we were doing today with Roma, you know. So I was seeing this guy get all these accolades for you know, the film Roma, and I'm going, well, look at what Scorsese did with Raging Bull in 1980. You know, tell me if I'm wrong about that, folks, if you check this out. But also, real quickly, I want to point something out about you can see the first picture in the top left there where we have Robert De Niro, and he actually gained a lot of weight so he could play a later version of Jake LaMotta, right? To me, it set the precedent of actors just really getting into that role. Right. And going to great lengths, what they'll put their bodies through, even the dangers of even doing things of that nature. Right. To make it work. Right. So it reminds me of what Christian Bale had done. And I believe a movie called The Jacket. It might have been The Jacket. I might have that mixed up with another character. But I remember Christian Bale going on like an apple diet. Right. He got like super duper skinny, like right before he took the Batman role when he put the weight kind of back on. But I think that Robert De Niro was one of the first actors to kind of do that, where he could fluctuate his weight, you know, things of that nature, and it kind of set the precedent for other actors to do that. I might be wrong on that, but you know, where did he pick up on that? I'm not sure, but
the granted person saying it was called The Mechanist.
The Machinist, I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right, absolutely. I think The Jacket was Adrian Brody might have starred in that one. I get those two films mixed up sometimes, but yeah, absolutely. And it's a great film too. It's a little darker film, but Christian Bale's great though. So
yeah,
again, folks, all the way through. you want to see Joe Pesci in his earlier age. To me, it's like when I rewatched this film before our last stream, Milt.
Yeah.
If you Goodfellas and Casino, and
Uh-huh.
if you love Joe Pesci and De Niro together, you're gonna love this film, right? It's probably their first time together. Possibly I might be wrong about that, but they're absolutely perfect in this film together as well. And the paranoia that Jake LaMotta displays, right? De Niro's Jake LaMotta displays is just absolutely outstanding, and there's just some scenes in there where you're just kind of like in your seat, just going, you know.
You know what, dog?
It's supposed to make you feel, right? It's supposed to draw some sort of emotion, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to make you go, man, that's messed up, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a must-watch, folks. Again, I do warn folks about, the domestic violence aspects and some of the crazy languages and things of that nature. But if you want to see some of the greatest acting of all time and some of the greatest directing of all time, Raging Bull it's my number one, folks.
Yeah, and and the bad thing, dog, about this is that it's on your number one, and I've never seen it. I still haven't seen it yet, dog. I admit it, but I've heard so much about it. I just haven't had the time, if you can believe it, to actually watch this. But I really wanted to watch it, especially since since we did that stream about 3 months ago or 4 months ago, whatever. I mean, I definitely want to see this, and if it's out there, if anybody knows if it's out there on Netflix or whatever, let me know, and I'll definitely try to pop it on quick and just basically give it a whirl, because I definitely want to see this, because if it's as good as what you say, dog, then it's definitely worth 2 or 3 hours of my time. So yeah, but I mean, I could just see in terms of how it's shot, in terms of cinematography, right? The whole black and white thing, the close-ups, the zooming cameras in and out of the characters. No big wide angles, right? Just more more zooms than anything else. Looking at these pictures here, that it's definitely different. And I mean, I would definitely want to check this out for sure. So I mean, I can't fault your pick for this, right? I mean, it's I mean, great actor. Again, you mentioned De Niro, Pesci, and also a great director in Martin Scorsese. So yeah, it's definitely it'll be definitely worth my time as well as others' times to basically check this movie out. All these movies on our list, for that matter, are very, very good. So yeah, awesome. So number one, my number one is the ninja, right? He likes martial arts and everything like that, right? So what could be worse than having a movie? What can be the best thing for a guy that likes martial arts than to make a movie that mixes martial arts with real life? Well, I only know one movie that's actually mixed martial arts in real life, and that's from 1985, Jim Cotta. Remember that movie? Okay, Jim Cotta was a classic. Okay, this was the actual true sequel to Enter the Dragon, right? Same exact story. Okay, basically, the U.S. government wanted to build like a radar station, on a remote country, but in order to actually build it, the U.S. had to send a champion to beat up all these other, champions, right, on this island. And if they won it, then they're allowed to build, the radar station, to protect America's interests. So, and what's amazing about this movie was that they actually recruited an actor from the actual 1984 U.S. gymnastics team to actually play the main role. A guy named Kurt Thomas. Okay, who had absolutely no acting experience whatsoever. But they said, oh, he can do gymnastics, so why not give him the, starring role in this movie? And who can forget a classic line like, the finish line for you is right here, Cabot. You can't beat that line, right? That's a classic line. And, who else? Okay, so Kurt Thomas, and I don't remember who else was in that movie, okay? And I don't really know who the actor is. But they also had a Yoda-like character in the bottom left-hand corner. This guy was a blind Japanese guy, okay? So again, with the stereotypes, right? What makes a better martial arts master than a blind Japanese guy? Okay, there's nobody like that.
Yeah, they set the bar with kung fu.
Exactly. And yeah, you can't beat this movie. It's like Street Fighter, Street Fighter and Enter the Dragon and the U.S. Olympic, gymnastics tournament all rolled into one. And that's Jim Cotta. So, and look at that picture in the lower right-hand corner, right? Now,
he's like on a pommel horse.
In what other movie would you see a pommel horse just all of a sudden appear in a street fight?
And now we know the uses. We know other uses for a pommel horse now. Is that you can whoop some butt.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's almost as bad as having a trampoline behind the Night King that Stark can jump off of to kill him. It is to have a pommel horse in the middle of a street fight.
I'm trying to think what he could have done with the rings.
Yeah, remember guys, 1985, Jim Cotta. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. But I'm just kidding. That's not my number one. Okay, go figure, right? In fact, my number one is probably one of the most uplifting movies. It actually is the most uplifting sports movie of all time, in my opinion. I've seen replays of this, in real life. It's none other than the movie Miracle in 2004 about the 1980 U.S. Olympic, hockey team, the men's, U.S. Olympic hockey team. I mean, it's basically a story about a bunch of amateurs, okay, college hockey players and also fresh out of college hockey players, amateurs, okay, because they didn't let pros back in, basically going up and defeating the mighty Soviet Union in the 1980 Winter Games in Lake Placid, okay, and New York. This is such a great story. This is real life fairy tale. Okay, to have a group of kids, I think the youngest was maybe 23 or 24, just basically go up against a seasoned, team like the Soviets, right? Who were like, 3-time, defending Olympic champions, who basically were pretty much undefeated, right? Throughout the 70s and early 80s, and to basically win. And, great moments in this movie. Kurt Russell was spot on playing Herb Brooks, the coach of the U.S. Olympic team. He was a spot on. You got some other people like Patricia Clarkson, great actress, Noah Emmerich, okay, Sean McCann. Guy named Gavin O'Connor, I haven't seen any of his movies since then, but this was a great movie that he did do. And he's nothing to be ashamed of for this movie, but it's just so cool. It's so uplifting. In fact, it was a real life miracle that these kids actually beat the Russians or the Soviets, okay, in the 1980 Olympic team. And, these quotes are awesome, and these are actually true quotes, from Herb Brooks. Great moments are born from great opportunity, okay. Who do you play for? Because, in the beginning, when these kids are actually coming together, forming the team, people tend to identify themselves, by their cities or states, right? Or colleges, never by their country. Okay, this movie actually shows that in the beginning, but it was only when they actually band together, under, a lot of adversity from their coach, of all people, that they actually start realizing it's not about me, right? It's about us. It's about the country. It's not about our college or our hometown or our states. It's about the United States of America. And that was just so freaking patriotic. In that one scene where, Mikey Ruzioni actually says that. Anyway, if you haven't checked this out, it's a Disney movie, okay? So there will be Disney moments in here, guys. But it's absolutely awesome from start to finish, okay? And if you're any kind of sports fan or, any kind of fan of the United States of America, especially during Olympic times, please check it out. It's great. I love it. And it's why it's my number one movie.
Yeah. Fantastic pick here, Mel. I've loved Kurt Russell. Like, I can't even think of a Kurt Russell film that I don't like, really. It's tough for me to really, I can't think of one off the top of my head, man. But like, I love Escape from New York and The Thing. Yeah. The Thing is like one of my favorite sci-fi films of like forever, right? But like Kurt Russell is like, he's just another one of those just iconic role-playing characters, right? I mean, when he comes on the stage, right, he's Fonzie pretty much. He's always the coolest character in the film usually, right? But I can honestly say this, out of all those films I've ever watched of him, this is his best acting performance ever, is when he played Herb Brooks on a Disney film.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm shocked that I'm saying that, right? But
Yeah.
really, I mean, if you took all of Kurt Russell's work throughout, I mean, he's awesome in The Hateful Eight, though, too. But I mean, he is just amazing as Herb Brooks. He deserved. I think he was nominated, and if he'd have won it, he had definitely deserved an Academy Award that year. So he's one of the greatest actors of our time, and his films are always so entertaining, you know. So, and then his characters are great too, and his presence on screen is, you know. But now it's like I'm seeing Herb Brooks. I'm not seeing Kurt Russell when I see this role. When I'm seeing him play this role, I'm not so much seeing Kurt Russell anymore. I'm really he is Herb Brooks to me, and you know, when I'm watching this, right? Whereas, he has iconic characters like Snake Plissken, you know, of course, right? But you know, that's still Kurt Russell to us, I think, you know, a little bit, right? But to me, it's kind of where he kind of chameleons and turns into another, you know, he kind of completely loses Kurt Russell here.
Yeah, exactly. And this is definitely not a Kurt Russell role, right? In terms of, I mean, Kurt Russell's been kind of typecast as a certain type of person, right? A certain type of character in Hollywood. And this was completely out of left field for him to actually play this kind of character. I mean, it's almost like Michael Keaton playing Batman, right? Essentially. I mean, this is like, you know, Kurt Russell playing Herb Brooks, a hockey coach. But so almost like kind of like on the same level. And but yeah, great performance. But man, the movie and the story is just excellent. I mean, it's a really tight movie, and you know, even for Disney, they really did a great job with this movie.
And that's another tough thing about sports films. It's tough to make I think it's probably one of the tougher films to make as a sports film. You know, to try to make it completely right, especially when you're trying to recreate stuff that we already know what's going to happen. We already know that our team's going to win, you know, because it's a history film as well, right? Yeah. So it's like we already know it, but how do you make that entertaining? But they do it here, right? I mean, hats off to them for doing that. That's tough to do. All
right. So there we have it, guys, and we are going to basically give a recap of our top 5 lists that we talked about tonight, starting with Dawg. Take it away.
All right, folks. Yep. My honorable mention tonight was Hoosiers, and my number 5 was the original Bad News Bears. Number 4, I had the Rustler, and number 3, I had the Karate Kid, and number 2, I had Rocky. Well, just Rocky, just one Rocky there, but I just get going sometimes, right? And then number 1, I have the Raging Bull, Jake LaMotta.
All right. Good, great list over there. I can't disagree with any of those picks. My top 5, okay, so an honorable mention is The Natural. Number 5 is Draft Day. Number 4 is The Karate Kid. Number 3 is Field of Dreams. Number 2 is Chariots of Fire. And number 1, the story of the 1980 U.S. men's Olympic hockey team, Miracle. So there you guys have it for our top 5 all-time favorite sports movies. And thanks a lot, everyone, for coming out. And Dawg, any closing words to this list and what you feel about it?
Oh, I'm just tickled pink to be here again, Milt. Great to do another collab with you, and looking forward to more. Thanks to the folks for coming out here tonight again. So appreciate you folks being here with us, and we get to reminisce about some old films. And I'd love to talk about films. So this is right up my alley, my friend. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, as always, for stopping by and joining me for these collaborations. It's really a great time with you, as well as interacting with everybody else in the chat that's actually viewing the stream with us live from Houston, Texas. Anyway, I had a great time as usual here with you, and I think making up this list again, rethinking some of the movies that belonged in my top 5 was a really good exercise. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely wanting to watch a couple of these movies on the list, on both of our lists as soon as possible. I think classics, all of them are classics, and it'll be a really good time to basically to do so. So that is it, guys. I think we might do another show perhaps in a week or two again. Because I'm still kind of busy with the moving and everything like that. But we'll definitely be doing this again since actually have a machine now and a table and a room to actually do streams. And but nevertheless, what's happening with you, Dawg? Channel wise, nothing much, or anything.
Yeah, stay tuned. Might be something soon. I almost had that little bug tell me to make a video today.
All right.
Make a video of some sort. So you just never know. Sometimes I just on a whim might make something. But as of right now, folks, I'm just John or Dawg.
Right. John W. But we always know you as Dawg, right? And you're okay you're okay with us calling you Dawg.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I have rabies, so that's what happened.
All right, cool. Yeah, and tomorrow I will be on Citadel Trivia, hosting with Felicia. In our Jeopardy format, we are going to be doing random trivia. So go ahead and check it out, guys, and basically enjoy the entertainment because, as usual, it's pretty freaking entertaining. So without further ado, I think this is it. So again, thanks a lot, Dawg, for stopping by. Thanks a lot, everybody out there. We shouted everybody out during the stream. I don't think we need to do it at the end. So, but go ahead and enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you tomorrow and next time. See y'all later. Bye.